Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Oroville City Council meeting, April 4th, 2017. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Berry?
Here.
Councilmember Del Rosario?
Yes.
Councilmember Draper?
Here.
Councilmember Hatley?
Here.
Councilmember Thompson?
Here.
Vice Mayor Goodson?
Here.
Mayor Dahlmeyer.
We're ready to convene to closed session, to regular open session for April 4th. We have just come back from closed session. There was no action taken and there was no direction given. Councilman Berry, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Jamie. We have two proclamations tonight. Thank you, Bill. Our first one is a proclamation recognizing Child Abuse Prevention Month. Is there a member? Thank you. Hello. Gary Lehman. You will be accepting this proclamation. Whereas all children deserve to grow up in a caring and loving environment, yet across America, hundreds of thousands of children are neglected and or abused each year, often causing lasting consequences. And whereas preventing child abuse is an effort that we must undertake in our cities, in our schools, neighborhoods, and communities, we must look after every child as if they are our own. And whereas children who are being abused and or neglected may display constant alertness, sudden changes in behavior and school performance, or untreated physical or medical issues. Child abuse may take many forms, including neglect and physical, sexual, or emotional abuse. And whereas child abuse and neglect can be reduced by making sure each family has the support they need to raise their children in a healthy environment, and whereas all families can benefit from strong support systems and resources in the face of these challenges. And as parents, friends, neighbors, and fellow human beings, keeping our kids safe is among our highest priorities. And whereas effective child abuse prevention programs succeed because of partnerships created among state and local government agencies, medical facilities, schools, faith communities, civic organizations, law enforcement, and the business community. Now, therefore, I, Janet Goodson, Vice Mayor of the City of Oroville, in concurrence with the Oroville City Council, do hereby proclaim April 2017 as Child Abuse Prevention Month and call upon all citizens to commit to giving every child a chance to succeed and to ensure that every child grows up in a safe, stable, and nurturing environment that is free from abuse and neglect.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. It's Gary Lehman, the president of the Exchange Club of Oroville. We'd like to thank the City Council for the recognition and for your support for the Exchange Club and the protection of youth within our community. Thank you again and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Mr. Lehman. Thank you. Is there anyone here to accept the Sexual Assault Awareness Proclamation? Hello. Could you please?
Reyes Ariola.
Thank you for coming. City of Oroville, a proclamation recognizing April 2016 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month and April 26, 2017 as Denim Day in Oroville. Whereas Sexual Assault Awareness Month calls attention to the fact that sexual violence is a widespread crisis and impacts nearly every community member in the city of Oroville. And whereas a coalition of rape crisis centers and their allies, known as the California Coalition Against Sexual Assault, has emerged to directly confront the crisis with the cooperation of law enforcement agencies, healthcare providers, institutions of higher education, and other allied professionals from California's diverse communities. And whereas the crime of domestic violence violates an individual's privacy, dignity, security, and humanity through the systematic use of physical, emotional, sexual, verbal, and economic control and or abuse. Whereas survivors of sexual assault should be treated with dignity, compassion, and respect. It is important to recognize the compassion and dedication of the individuals involved in eradicating the sexual assault crisis by applauding their commitment and assisting in the promotion of public understanding of this silent epidemic. And whereas since 1998, Denim Day has helped to raise public awareness by dispelling myths and harmful attitudes about sexual violence, which allows these crimes to persist and allows survivors to be potentially re-victimized through victim blaming and unresponsive government legal systems. And whereas California is a national leader within the judicial, criminal justice, medical, rape crisis, and health communities in promoting victim-centered approaches to victims of crime. For the past 43 years, rape crisis intervention and prevention has led the way in Oroville in addressing sexual violence by providing 24-hour crisis line services to victims, survivors, and their significant others, responding to emergency calls, counseling, ongoing support, and comfort to those impacted by sexual violence. Now, therefore, I, Janet Goodson, Vice Mayor of the City of Oroville, in concurrence with the City Council, do hereby proclaim April 2017 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month and April 26, 2017 as Denim Day in Oroville, and urge our community to take all reasonable action to prevent sexual violence and to increase participation in all efforts leading to the prevention of sexual assaults. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so very much for all that you do. It is appreciated, and I know it.
Thank you to the City of Oroville. Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor. Thank you, everybody, and I encourage you all to come to our events, come out and share that this isn't a one-person issue. This is a human issue, and we can all do something to prevent it. I encourage you all to wear denim on April 26th and continue to support everything that we do to support each other. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. I believe, Ruth, that you will be introducing an intern from the Finance Department.
Good evening, Vice Mayor and council members. The Finance Department would like to introduce you to Tarek Barak. He's our intern this semester in the Finance Department. We have him for 120 hours, and he comes 3 days a week. He drives himself from Chico. He's currently a student at Chico State, and we started him off really good. We had a huge sewer project that we put him on. We gave him our master sewer list, and we made sure that he matched everything up with our Trackit, a different database that we use in the city, and he spent quite a few days on that. He's also helping us get organized and file journals, anything that we've asked him, he's helped us out. So I want to introduce Tarek. Do you want to say anything?
Hi, I'm Tarek Barak, and just want to say thank you for this opportunity, and thank you to Ruth for everything. And it's been nice interning here so far, and I look forward to continuing. And just thank you.
Welcome. If there is anyone that would like to speak on an agenda item, please fill out, do we have a blue speaker card? Thank you. First item on the agenda is the consent calendar. Are there any city council members who would like to comment or address any item on the consent calendar? If there is no one, I am looking for a motion to approve the consent calendar.
A motion we approve.
Second.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Pardon me.
All votes are in. This motion has passed.
Thank you, Jamie. Public hearings, there are none. We will now move on to regular business. First item, number 7, utilization of executive committee as a liaison between the city of Oroville and Butte County. I believe that we also have a speaker, Tasha Levinson. Comments from city council?
Vice Mayor Don Rust. Again, this item was discussed at a budget meeting. We, again, have talked about doing a 2-by-3. In other words, it's 2 supervisors with 3 council members. Sorry about that. Just making sure I was on the right staff report there. 2 council members and 3 council members with 2 board of supervisors. Again, those supervisors would be Supervisor Conley, who represents Oroville, and then Supervisor Lambert, who represents Thermalito and other areas of the county. And again, the staff report indicates that it would authorize the executive committee to serve as the liaisons or the ad hoc or whatever it is on this, or provide other direction on this. Again, during the budget meeting, we talked about how this will help us with potentially regional issues that we have with the county and the city themselves. A couple of issues just off the top of my head. One that really helped bring this together is the dam situation and where we're at, where we can work cooperatively with the county on issues with the dam. Also, maybe homelessness, that's another regional issue that I think we have, that we can get some support. Again, work with the county on how to, you know, bring together the city and the county on regional issues. So again, with that, I can answer any other questions if the council would like.
Thank you. I see that there is no one in the queue. Councilwoman Del Rosario?
As long as I've lived in Oroville, there's been a thorny relationship. I call it a thorny relationship between the city and the county. And I see this as an opportunity for the two organizations to work together and possibly mend what has not been a happy relationship. I've heard the city speak badly about the county. I've heard the county speak badly about the city. And I think this committee is the perfect opportunity to bring the agencies together. So I highly support the idea.
There is, thank you. Councilwoman Draper.
Thank you.
Is in the queue.
I can't see how this could possibly be bad for any parties involved, for the county or the city. And I think it's a wonderful opportunity. I would love to be on that committee. Especially, it's an opportunity to do something about homelessness in Chico, Oroville, Gridley, and the county as a whole. And some of these problems can't be dealt with by just one entity. Whereas if we have the county and the cities involved, and maybe even the state at some point, maybe we can make some progress on some issues that are troubling all of us.
Council Member Thompson.
I'm going to go ahead and echo what everybody's saying so far. It's important to understand that things that happen in the county affect the city, and things that happen in the city affect the county. So we see government across the board, whether it be federal or local, that when entities don't share information and collaborate, things fall through the crack and there's a lack of effectiveness. So this is an absolutely great way for us to work together with our counterpart in the county and to see problems that affect us all to be resolved. So absolutely in favor of this.
It sounds like there is a general consensus to authorize the executive committee to serve as the city liaison between the Butte County and the city of Oroville. I am therefore looking for a motion.
We have a speaker.
Is there a speaker?
Tasha Levinson.
Tasha. Good evening.
Good evening. Tasha Levinson, resident of Oroville. And I think this is a great idea just because I think from the public's perspective, anytime government agencies work together, we just have a better deal all the way around. One of the things that came to my attention this last week was that Oroville has a wonderful nuisance code, and I suspect that the county also has a nuisance code that calls for somewhere in there to be an administrative hearing officer. Because so many of the code enforcement problems of both the city and the county cross-relate their neighbors across the street from each other, I think this is also something that could be a part of this 3x2 group. That's something that they could address and possibly even find someone to be our volunteer administrative hearing officer to do some days for county, some days for city, or some hours for county, some days for city, and actually improve code enforcement in both the county and the city, and with high hopes that we could really achieve some good things. And that was all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Tasha. Are there any other comments from the audience or city council members? If there are none, I am looking for a motion.
I make a motion that we approve this executive committee as a liaison between the city of Oroville and Butte County.
A second. Thank you.
All votes are in. This motion has passed.
Moving on to item 8, formation of Community Blight Advisory Ad Hoc Committee. There is also 2 speakers in the audience. Hello, Dawn.
Hi there, Vice Mayor Goodson and council members. Dawn Nevers, Assistant Planner for the City of Oroville. Tonight we have a request to appoint 3 council members to the Community Blight Advisory Committee, or Ad Hoc Committee. Following a meeting on March 23rd, staff met with Vice Mayor Goodson, Councilmember Del Rosario, and some members of the community. Following discussions, it was recommended that, to discuss 12 blighted properties within South Oroville. Following discussions, it was recommended that the advisory committee be formed, comprised of 3 council members and 2 staff members and 3 citizens. The committee will develop a pilot program to work with property owners of severely blighted properties in a collaborative and cooperative manner that will produce successful results.
Good.
So tonight we're asking for 3 council members to be appointed.
Thank you, Dawn. We have 2 speakers from the audience, William Bynum, and after Mr. Bynum, Pastor Kevin Thompson.
Okay, thank you so much. I was at the budget committee meeting a few weeks ago, and we talked about this very evening. And in between then and now, I was one of the citizens that met with Mr. Rust, Mr. Legrone, and quite a few others. There are about 12 people in the room, Mr. Belcher. Anyway, so from our perspective, the citizen perspective, we like the ideas that we came up with, especially Mr. Legrone's ideas. We think that was a good way to go about doing it. But on our side of it, we're going to go ahead and follow through with some properties we think are pertinent and we might want to look at first. So if I could hand these out, I would like to do that. So you can actually see some of the properties that we are talking about.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You can give that to Jamie, please.
Thank you.
So in those packets, there are 9 properties. We are a code enforcement committee, and we're formed to try to assist the city. We don't want to be an adversary. We want to work in conjunction with the city. We filed those 9 complaints today, and one of them is a follow-up complaint. I couldn't help but notice, driving down Lincoln today, that one of those properties has been cleaned up, and it looks
Yes, it has.
it looks wonderful. And so we are just want to join forces and work to make this city a better place for everybody. And I know, well, I live out by Palermo, but if I was in the city of Oroville, I would not want to live on the same street with any of those 9 properties. And so we're just trying to bring it to the forefront. We know the city's strapped, but we still want to make this a priority moving forward. Even if we could pick them off one by one, every one makes the city that much better as a place to live. So appreciate everybody's help.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bynum. I just wanted to give an update on the property that you mentioned. That would be 1950 Idora and Lincoln Boulevard. I did They commenced work on that last week. They've done a tremendous job of making inroads into cleaning up that property. There is much debris that is left specifically inside that house. I had a conversation earlier with the lead crewman, and he said that property will be free and clear of debris, both inside and out. Completion will be at the end of the week. Pastor Kevin Thompson.
Good afternoon, Vice Mayor and council members. We're so thankful. I'm just honored each time that we have an opportunity to stand in this place, and you've given us this forum to come and discuss the needs, namely of our city, and how we are to protect it and grow it at the same time. And I just stood up. Actually, my card was to make a nomination, if I may do that, as one of the council board members, and that would be Mr. Jack Berry. I don't know if anyone else have considered him, but this gentleman here, I think he has more time that's associated with the South Side, namely, but his entire city. And what a great man, and we're so thankful that he have heard the heartbeat of the community. He have listened to us, and he just endured down through the years. So, namely, I piggyback on Mr. Bill Bynum. I'm the director of the Oroville Southside Community Improvement Association, and we're not just stuck on Southside. We consider this town as a great place to live. We wouldn't change it for anything. So we're going to work in the entire city of Oroville to make it a better place to live for all its citizens. So once again, I just want to thank you for this opportunity, giving me this time and space. But my recommendation would certainly be Councilman Jack Berry. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from the audience and or city council?
Janet.
Councilwoman Draper, and after Councilwoman Del Rosario.
I wasn't able to be at that meeting, didn't hear about it, but I'm really excited that something is being done about the blight in our town, because there are several areas that are dealing with this. And in October, I took some photos and posted them on Oroville Current Events of a business, a recycling business that's off Lincoln, and it's on a little side street, and unfortunately people have been continuously dumping old refrigerators, TVs, and things at this recycling place. And the last I checked with one of the businesses there, Jess Howard told me that they had cleaned it up drastically just from the feedback off the Facebook page. But I'm delighted to hear that this group has taken photos and is actively seeking areas that can be addressed, because that can only be a good thing for the whole city. Thank you.
I just wanted to suggest that you, the committee, speak with Mr. Del Rosario. He showed me a picture today that was taken of a yard that makes these look pretty good. It was absolutely piled with junk. And so the VIPs are also taking pictures. You might coordinate with them. Just a suggestion. And I want to be on the committee.
I believe, Marlene, you and I have an advantage since we put this on the agenda. I am in the queue. And what I'd like to say is, daily I am confronted with blight, burned out, and abandoned homes, trash, and pest-infested properties in the city. And as I go throughout the city, there are some areas that are more significantly impacted than others. Not only does it lower property values, but these buildings are unsafe structures, and they continue to attract transient move-in traffic. The criminal element is prevalent as well, and oftentimes I see children. I see children playing in and around these unsafe structures and these piles of horrific debris that are laden with needles. We need the formation of this community blight advisory team, and I am looking for a motion to approve not only the formation of this committee, but also with Jack Berry, the recommendation to have Jack Berry on this committee as a city council member as well.
I'd like to make that motion that we, you're okay, that we approve the formation of the Blight Advisory Ad Hoc Committee with council members Berry and Del Rosario and Vice Mayor Goodson as representatives of the city of Oroville on that committee.
Thank you.
Do we have a second? Okay.
That's great.
Playing with us.
All votes are in. This motion has passed.
Yes. Mr. Bynum? I believe we have Alan Young.
Cohorts back here to say a couple of words. Several weeks ago, Bill Bynum and I visited the Recology office and wanted to see the office manager to see if we could talk to the people up the ladder. She said that she thought that would be a good idea. She would call us, and no call. So I went back again last week and met with her, and she said, well, the director, I think it was Sal was his name, was too busy to meet. And I said, forever? And she sort of indicated, yeah. His feeling was that Recology has done quite a bit for Southside already, and that they felt that it was going to be a project that would go forever, and that I guess they couldn't afford to do it, to continue doing that kind of work pro bono. So I kind of backed off a bit and said, how about the coupon program where you get city residents get a coupon twice a year to bring a pickup load of trash for free. And I said, is it possible that maybe we could get that program, and maybe rather than a level load of pickup, which is what they require, to get maybe a more full load. And she thought they might be able to work something out like that. But other than that, it sounds like they really don't want to go much further. I asked her what a dumpster cost, and I think it was like $800. It's either $600 or $800, some horribly ridiculous number, I thought. And at the time I was sitting there waiting to see her, a city dump truck came pulling through. It wasn't a really large dump truck, it was kind of a medium size, and she ran him through. And I asked the lady, I said, that was a city truck, right? Yeah. I said, what did that cost to dump that load? And she said, $50. And I said, how often do they do that? And she said, quite often.
30 seconds, Mr. Young.
What's that?
30 seconds.
What?
You have 30 seconds.
I can't hear you. You have 30 seconds left. Oh, sorry. Anyway, it was interesting that the city, and it was full of trash. And, I don't know where it come from, or the city picked it up somewhere. I think we're still looking to Recology to help somehow. And I'd like to see the city get behind the effort and maybe push Recology a little, maybe a little more than we can. And that's kind of an update where we're at on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Councilmember Del Rosario.
Yes. Did you make it clear to them that this is an Oroville project, not just a South Oroville project? I mean, Southside is carrying the weight of the whole city then, as far as trash is concerned.
When I talked, I just talked about Southside.
I see. Well, perhaps.
Microcosm of the city,
Mhm.
although it's a pretty significant problem.
Mhm.
If they weren't willing to help in that, I'm not sure they would really be willing to help with the rest of the city. That's just my own opinion.
I'm in the queue.
Go ahead.
Were you done?
Mhm.
I just want to interject something. This is one of the reasons why we opted, and as we met, one of the things that we would be addressing as an executive committee at City Council with county. We will be collaborating our efforts. This is an epidemic that crosses over into the city, into communities in the city and in the county as well. So it is not just one community. This is our city, and this is our need, and this is our concern. And we are uniting so that we can come together and address this. It is a city at large concern. I believe that we can now move on to
I
item
wonder
9.
if we can't write a letter to Recology. Is there?
That would be Don Rust.
Actually, I talked to Sal this morning, and I'm trying to set up a meeting with him on several other issues, so we'll just make that part of the conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rust. Moving on to agenda item 9, grant agreement with Shyla Cook relating to the Oroville Arts and Downtown Beautification Project. Are there any comments from City Council? Dawn?
Vice Mayor and council members. This is a request to consider a grant agreement with artist Shyla Cook for an Ishii mural proposal relating to the Oroville Arts and Downtown Beautification Project. Following the approval of Ordinance 1798 establishing the arts and public places and Oroville beautification policy, the Arts Commission developed and released a notice of funding available. Following the NOFA's release, 4 applications were received, and on March 13th, the Commission reviewed and unanimously approved a grant agreement in the amount of $7,437 with Shyla Cook and forwarded a recommendation to City Council for the final approval of the grant agreement.
Thank you, Dawn. Are there any comments from the City Council? I am looking for a motion.
I move that we accept the grant agreement with Shyla Cook relating to the Oroville Arts and Downtown Beautification Project.
Second.
All votes are in. This motion has passed.
Thank you. Moving on to item 10, League of California Cities, Mayors and Council Members Executive Forum and Advanced Leadership Workshops. I am looking for comments or discussions from the City Council. I have Council Member Draper in the queue.
Well, as we talked about at the last budget meeting and the last council meeting, we have a deficit. We're asking city employees to take layoffs of 5%. We've frozen positions. We have many departments that aren't completely staffed. So, you know, a year or so down the road, I think this would be a really neat activity. But in lieu of all that, I don't think we can justify. For the 2 days, it's $976.50. For the executive forum and for the advanced leadership workshop, it's almost $500. And so I think it's just inappropriate to do that at this time.
Thank you. Councilmember Hatley is in the queue.
Thank you. I agree with Councilwoman Draper. This, at this time, is just not a good expense. That's $1,442.50 a person that would go to this. And at this time, that was just not reasonable to me when we're in such a budget deficit right now. That's just a waste of money, in my opinion, and so I could never support anybody going to this at this time. Thank you.
I would like to reiterate and piggyback and concur with City Council Member Draper and Hatley. The city is still reeling from a $1.8 million deficit. I simply cannot justify sending any council member to this conference, and especially at a cost of approximately $976 per city council person. I believe that at this time there is not an urgency for any of us to learn about, and I'm going to just pick out a couple, forum topics at the conference, such as how to set goals for city manager performance evaluations, how cities can change the outcome of the next earthquake, and understanding the angry voter. I recommend that we sit this one out for 2017 and reserve funds.
You didn't mention my favorite, creating a governing culture of civility and purpose. I think we're all pretty civil.
Are there any other comments? I am looking for a motion.
This is direction only. There is no motion needed.
Thank you. Moving on to item, Chief LeGrone, did you want to say something on the previous
No, ma'am.
item, or it's this one? All right. Moving on to item 11, job description for public information, crime prevention officer, and authorization to hire for position.
Good evening, Madam Vice Mayor Goodson and Council. If I could, I would like to respectfully pull this item and take it back to the budgeting process and bring it through the budgeting process so we can have a better opportunity to explore the funding for this position.
All right. Thank you, Chief LeGrone.
So what we'll do is we'll continue this item, and then we'll have discussion as part of the budget process as we go forward, looking for opportunities to, again, have savings in the budget that allow us to, to do this. Again, this has come out of the incident at the dam, really understanding that we do need a PIO, a public information officer, at some point in time, whether now is right or not. Again, as we talked about the previous item, how we are in a budget crisis, a budget crunch. Though this is important, I think we just need to make sure that where we're at next year in our budget. So I think that's a wise idea for us to bring this back, and we will talk about it during the budget.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 12, purchase of new police vehicles. I am looking for comments, discussion from City Council. I have two questions for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Currently, how many OPD operational fully equipped vehicles do we have on the road? Number two, how many of these vehicles are in use per shift?
Use per shift is 2 to 3 per shift.
Mm-hmm.
Operational, my complete operational fleet, I have 18 police cars, of marked police cars.
Okay.
And they're operational and fully equipped.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're requesting the purchase of 2 new police vehicles.
Correct. I'm removing 2 from my fleet and adding 2 back to the fleet, replacing old vehicles that are worn and they've been well used.
Yeah.
Are there any other comments?
Well, I like the
Councilmember
idea
Draper?
that, oh, I'm sorry. I like the idea that you're going to be selling at auction the used vehicles that you'll then have available. And also that you got these at a discount because whoever purchased them initially didn't get them. And so you got a discount for that, which is a nice thing. And how old are the vehicles the 2 that you're replacing?
The 2 that we're replacing, I believe, is a 2007 and a 2008.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
And they've been, if I could, just for clarity for the council, the vehicles that we would be getting are going to be the SUV style vehicles like all of our other vehicles. They're currently white, so it doesn't meet our color scheme. So that's why there's some repainting that's in there. We're going to take them to Miracle and get a, I think, I don't know, maybe I'm showing my age. We're going to get the Earl Shive $3.99 special on the panels that we need painted black, so that we have the black and white scheme going on. So there is a little bit of additional expense to that. The other equipment that will be purchased is going to be purchased for specialty equipment for canines because these are going to transport our dogs. So we have to have some specialty platforms and things like that. We'll repurpose everything we can out of the Crown Vics into the SUVs, but in particular, the cages don't fit because of the space in the rear seating is different and the requirement to be able to not only have the cage back there to contain the dog, but also to turn the cage so that you have a place for a prisoner to sit when someone's taken into custody and transported to jail. So it's a little bit of specialty equipment that's included in the price. The vehicles are being paid for. Half of the money is going to come from what would be considered the city's dollars. The other half of the money is money that we have seized from people that were involved in the illegal sale and distribution of narcotics. So half of the money is coming from drug dealers to purchase these new cars. The reason why we only went with half instead of utilizing all of our asset forfeiture money is because of the fact that the car, we don't want to get into a situation with the federal government because this is federal asset seizure money where they're looking at it and they're saying you're supplanting your dollars because you should have bought a police car anyway, you would have. So if we could do half and half, and the dogs are trained as narcotic detection dogs, then we can justify the expense and utilize the asset forfeiture money. So it better protects us instead of just essentially rolling the dice and waiting for the feds to come in and say that was an inappropriate expense. So we're sharing it. So what appears that we're buying 1 car with asset forfeiture and 1 car with city dollars, we're actually going to do half and half of each one. Now, I think it's just a bookkeeping thing that the finance director will have to do, but that's how I intend on spending this money, if the council approves it.
Well, I move that we move forward with the purchase of 2 Ford Police Interceptor utility vehicles. That sounds cool, Interceptor.
That's what they're all
I
called.
just have one more question. The disposal of these vehicles, they will be disposed in a manner that brings the greatest value to the city. Can you give us an update what that dollar figure is going to be once they have been disposed of?
Once they go to auction and we get the auction back, we'll know what we get. Typically for these, we get anywhere from, I'm going to say $1,500 to $2,500. They're, and I'll give everybody a piece of advice. Anybody listening or anybody I'm talking to right now, don't buy one. They are disgusting vehicles. You know, they're taken care of, but everything that's occurred and everything that's happened in those cars, you just don't want nothing to do with it. And don't ever ride in the back. You know, so we don't get much for them, but we will get something. And part of the process that we'll go through now once we do this is we will evaluate our fleet. And we will look at what is the worst vehicles, and those will be the ones that get pushed out.
It's a fabulous sales pitch.
I know. I'm not your sales guy on that. And what I mean by that is if these cars look terrible and they've been used up, and the reason why we keep cars is because we need a pool of cars. So in the event that one of the SUVs are down or something like that, the officer will move into the pool car and utilize the pool car. So we keep a pool of them. We also use them for our reserve officers and different things. So we keep those. And what I mean by the worst will be selected, we'll pull the equipment out of the car that we can, reutilize it in the SUV, and then we will select the worst cars in the fleet, push those cars out, and then the equipment that's in those cars, if these canine cars are better than the worst cars that I have, that equipment will be put into that car and it will be kept as a pool car. It'll essentially sit there and only be utilized in the event that I have a car break down. Unfortunately, recently I had one of my cars that a motorhome ran into and destroyed, so that car is going to be out for several months being repaired. So a fleet or pool vehicle is currently being utilized. So we will do that. We will then auction what's left, and I will bring you back those numbers once we, whatever we get for them.
Thank you, Chief. Councilmember Hatley is in the queue.
Thank you. When the cars are sold at auction, where does the money go?
I don't know where it's going now. I'd like to see it go back into the capital equipment replacement fund because that's where we're getting money from to purchase half of these vehicles. So I'd like to see the money go back into that fund. So it won't replace it, but it will at least offset some of the impact.
Okay. And the other thing is, because of our budget constraints right now, do we have anybody in associated with the group that gets the asset forfeiture? Or are we still providing a body?
No, sir. We currently don't have anybody in the task force, the Bentif task force. We've been doing our own asset forfeiture in-house. The seizures that we actually have not come from that body. They've come from seizures that my officers on the street have obtained.
Okay, so this money is not from the task force. This is from what OPD has generated.
Correct.
Okay, because we're not involved in that, right? We don't get any of that asset forfeiture if they get any out there. Is that correct?
No, sir. We're not getting anything from them.
Okay, okay. Well, I just wanted to make sure because if we're not participating, if this was just like, once this is gone, it's gone, but this is from our own activities.
Yes, one of the things that we push for, and I believe personally, if you're gaining from doing something illegal and selling drugs in my community and you have money, I want to take it from you. And that's one of the things I push my officers to do is to take that money, run it through the process. We have to, a good for instance is we seized $300,000 from an individual one day that was moving marijuana. The $300,000, by the time it went through the process, it went to the federal government, to the DA's office and everything. We ended up with about $130,000 of that money. The rest was distributed to others. So there is a process it goes through. Everybody gets a piece of that because they have involvement in the case as well. So
Right.
that has
It's just
come
like-
off of the streets
right.
of the city of Oroville.
Right, it's just like it always worked, but through the other agency.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay, I understand. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Are there any other comments from council members? And did you want to go through with the motion?
We have a motion, yeah.
All right.
I'll
thank you.
second that motion.
All votes are in. This motion has passed.
Thank you, council.
Thank you, Chief. Moving on to council announcements and committee reports. Chief, while you're still standing, do you have anything to report? No. All right. Ruth?
I'd like to tell the council that we are actually losing another accounting tech. We had another one give notice. She got a great opportunity. It's an opportunity she can't pass up, so we're recruiting for 2 accounting techs now. If you know anybody, please encourage them to apply.
Thank you very much. Dawn, do you have anything to report?
Not tonight.
All right, thank you. Moving on to hearing of individuals on non-agenda items. We have Carlos Aguilar. Good evening.
My name's Carlos Aguilar, and I live in the city of Oroville on Coventry Drive. And I appreciate the proclamations this evening because really it's coincidence, but it's kind of what brings myself and some of our neighbors here. There is a residence on our street, 10 Coventry Drive. It's a rental, has been a rental for several years. We've lived in that neighborhood for about 22 years and have raised 4 kids and fed a lot of the neighborhood kids at the time as well. And about a year ago, the residence was, and I don't know what the exact term was, but it was a group home for women. And on a couple of different occasions, we had to call the police, one with a couple women arguing in the backyard. We're about 100 yards away, and we could hear them. Vulgar language, the granddaughters there, had to bring them in. On another occasion, debris, mattresses, dressers thrown outside. I think I waited about a week and a half before I called in to get that picked up. But all of a sudden, we're seeing men walking through the neighborhood we've never seen before. That shut down. I don't know the reason why. Has been empty for just a little while. Apparently, we've got a men's behavioral center of some sort moving in now. In fact, I think they're there already. And that's just, we just have a grave concern. I think, in fact, the proclamation about preventing child abuse and sexual assault and so on and so forth, legally, I have no idea. I'm just someone who lives in the neighborhood, and we've enjoyed and been blessed with a very safe neighborhood for a very, very long time, and I want to see that for my granddaughters. There's the neighborhood is rolling over, so to speak, and we've got kids again out there and running around, and it's good to see. And we're very nervous about who is going in there. That's a pretty broad definition of mental health, anywhere from recovery and addicts, and I believe sexual offenders as well. Not positive. I put that for you guys to define for us and figure that out. But again, we're very, very concerned about that. We've worked, I'll speak for myself and my wife and family. We've worked very hard to be in that neighborhood and keep it up. We respect our neighbors, and I think some of those sacrifices are just going to go by the wayside. And
30 seconds, Mr. Aguilar.
Okay. Time is up.
30 seconds.
And more importantly than that, I think the safety of our neighborhood is what is a graver concern for us, that we can't allow the kids to just kind of be out there. In fact, one of our neighbors walked by, and already there was someone out in their pajamas laid out on the front lawn, no shirt on. Again, what people do, they can do it, but it is really a grave concern for us at this time, and I'd appreciate your attention concerning this issue. I've got some more of the complaint forms. I don't know who I turned that into. Okay, great. Thank you for your
Thank you,
attention.
Mr. Aguilar. I believe there's 2 other people in the audience that would like to address this concern as well on 10 Coventry Drive. Mr. Randy Guild.
Thank you, Vice Mayor and Council. I'm Randy Guild. I live at 12 Coventry Drive, which is adjacent to the 10 Coventry Drive. I'd like to make it clear I have no problem with developmentally disabled people. I'm retired from that field where I was a counselor to them for 20 years. I was their advocate, coordinated services for them. However, I don't feel like that group home is in the appropriate setting. As Mr. Aguilar said, there's children about the neighborhood. There's retired people who are very vulnerable, many widows, including my 91-year-old mother. And the proprietor of this group home told me that they were catering to mental health clients. There's a lot of categories under mental health. This is a grave concern. I've been the victim of abuse, physical abuse from some of my clients over the years. I don't hold that against them. However, I don't want to subject our children in the neighborhood or the vulnerable population in the neighborhood. this is indeed a business. I don't think it's considered that legally, but the proprietor told me she receives $200 per month per client. And then somewhere she comes up with funds to have full-time staffing, is what she told me. So this is a business. It's not being used as a residence. So I would appreciate if council would just consider this concern and direct us accordingly. It's a privilege to live in Acacia Manor. We've been there, 18 or 20 years now. It's been a well-kept, harmonious neighborhood. I'd like to see it stay that way. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Guild. I believe there is one other person, Tamara Hutchinson, and then I would like to turn comment over to our city attorney, Scott Huber.
I'm Tamara Hutchison. I'm actually coming in on the skirt tails of the child abuse, sexual offender, and the Coventry situation, because I'd heard about the meeting, and I was kind of surprised to hear that there was a meeting, because I had been saying for a couple of months that on Oral Quincy there is a group home with 6 sex offenders. All of their offenses are for children under the age of 14, and they are literally Ishii Hill's backyard. I mean, we're talking to their playground. It's a straight shot to the kids' playground. The fences, you know, we have them in our, I don't know if it's them, but I think it's them, because their hoodies are like this. They're on our property, hunched down in bushes. We're constantly running them off, whoever they are, I'm saying them. But, so I don't know if I have to make another meeting to address this completely separate issue. But, I mean, if you're going to say no to the Coventry Lane, then I say we go back and we say no to the sex offenders that are right behind Ishii. Literally no houses in between. It's their backyard. And the kids run their laps, walk their laps, hide in bushes like kids do from us. It's terrifying for me. I work at Ishii, and it's terrifying for me. I don't like seeing it. So, like I said, I'm kind of on the skirt tails of both those situations, so let me know if I need to schedule my own day here. This is my first time here, so I don't know how it runs.
All right. Thank you very much. I'm going to turn this portion over to our city attorney, Scott Huber.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. This is a I can only categorize it as a difficult issue.
Yes, it is.
And it is one where the Supreme Court has made certain rulings on this, and I'm more than happy to meet with all of the individuals. We can set up a time to meet as a group or individually. That's fine. I'm happy to chat with you about it. The Supreme Court has ruled, most recently out of a case in San Diego that I was just looking at a moment ago. Any home in a residential neighborhood that has 6 residents or fewer, that you cannot restrict from a zoning standpoint, you cannot prohibit individuals living in that property. I can't. I mean, I can tell you all kinds of. I can give you my personal opinion, but that doesn't mean much. I'm not on the Supreme Court. While I disagree with the ruling from the Supreme Court, while I think it's wrong, while I would not want, I wouldn't want that, in any of these neighborhoods. But the issue is, I don't get to make up the law. I just have to enforce it and follow it and advocate for what the law says. The Supreme Court has ruled that if there are 6 individuals, non-related, in a single-family residence, that cannot be regulated by zoning by the city. Now, if there are more than that, if there are more than 6 individuals in a property, and I don't know how many, to speak to the 10 Coventry?
10 Coventry.
10 is where the house is. I just learned about it tonight, and so we'll take a look at it and try and figure out how many individuals are living there. I'd love to chat with you afterwards. There are some strategies I can give you, some things we can talk about. And from an enforcement standpoint, as a city, if there are less than 6 individuals, The city can't do anything other than typical code enforcement. You mentioned, I think you mentioned mattresses being strewn about, garbage being strewn about. Certainly that can be cited because that falls under some different sections of the code. Anything along those lines, we are happy to deal with and happy to take a look at. Again, I'm more than happy to meet with and meet with you, individually and as a group. We can certainly talk about it after the meeting. This is a very difficult issue, and it's difficult because in many instances we've been given, we meaning city attorneys, have been given strict guidelines as to what we can enforce and what we can't. And so in some instances, I'm the bearer of bad news and to say, look, there's not much we can do other than enforce some of the side issues that come about from these properties and not the central issue itself. But if you wouldn't mind sticking around for a few minutes afterwards, let's chat, and anybody that wants to chat is fine. But we can take that offline and we can have some discussions about what the law says and things we can look at and how we can try and address that issue to keep your neighborhood safe and the children in your neighborhood safe. I can tell you, no one on this council would want children to be abused or seniors to be abused or individuals to live in fear. That's not what anybody wants. So.
Thank you, Mr. Huber. I'm not sure, and I know that Councilmember Thompson is in the queue. Did you want to comment now? All right.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor Goodson. I just want to make it clear to the community, as a father and as a community resident, I know I can speak for all of us up here that we share your concern, that we're on the same page in regarding the safety of residents, especially those who are vulnerable, children and elderly. So within the letter of the law, as Mr. Hubert explained, as a city council, whatever we can do and come up with creative ideas within the letter of the law, we want to. And so I just want to make that clear with the community. We're with you on that. And so we want our community, want our kids safe.
Thank you. Moving on to Tasha. Ms. Tasha Levinson, non-agenda items. I believe, are there two?
No, just one.
Just one, thank you.
Well, actually, there are two that just came up with this. On the, your nuisance ordinance, ordinance, City of Oroville, ordinance number 1719, section 1422401S, describes various behavior which may make this a nuisance, which will give you another enforcement opportunity there. And the other thing I was going to say is I attended the budget meeting on March 14th and then was going to try to attend the continuation of the budget meeting, which I thought was going to be on March 28th. And then the posted agenda indicated that there was only closed session items, none of which were going to be the budget. I heard, and I don't know if it's accurate, this budget then actually was discussed at that March 28th meeting. Just kind of Brown Act notification that only do things that are on your agenda, don't do things that are not on your agenda, and if budget should be something, I think that would be part of a public agenda thing rather than only a closed session item. And so let's just make sure we always keep transparency and following the Brown Act up. That's all. Thank you.
Madam Vice Mayor, if I might.
Yes.
I was in attendance at that meeting, and what I will tell you is, because it was a closed session, I can't divulge. We fully complied with the Brown Act. I would not allow the council to discuss any item that was not allowed in closed session. Again, I can't give you a lot more detail than that, but I can tell you that the council was not setting its budget in closed session. That I will tell you. Yeah, and I appreciate. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I don't want the implication to be made, and I don't think you were making it, but I don't want someone to interpret that the council was establishing the budget in closed session behind closed doors. not happening. It was all, everything that was done was proper, duly noticed, above board for those newspaper people who are here.
If there's nothing else, we are adjourned. The meeting is adjourned, and a regular meeting of the Oroville City Council will be held on Tuesday, April 18th, 2017, at 4:30 p.m. Thank you all for coming.
5:30? 5:30.
Excuse me, 5:30. Thank you.
This is the earliest we've ever adjourned.